Ooh, he is getting cocky now, making his own Booktube tag videos. Hey book buddies, I'm Eric from Lonesome Reader. I feel like being daring today and I want to try out making my own tag video. I was inspired to do this after somebody left a comment on one of my recent wrap-up videos asking if one of the books I read recently and really loved, if they thought that would be a future classic. I'm fascinated by the idea of what makes a classic, who decides what's a classic. Do some classics get forgotten and rediscovered? Like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was published 200 years ago. It was hugely popular at the time, but critics were sharply divided about its worth, and it's gone on to become one of the most well-known and most influential novels of all time. So I was wondering, in 50 years' time, if the internet still exists and if civilization still exists and all of our YouTube videos are still here, will people watch them and look back and think, oh yeah, that's when that book was first published, and that booktuber recognized that the book will last the test of time. And I got to thinking, I put my Carrie Bradshaw thinking cap on, and I got to thinking, what books out of the many that I read will still be read in 50 years' time and considered classics? So here are some fun questions all about that, and if we're all still around after half a century, we can huddle together in our retirement community for reading addicts, no doubt being served books on platters by robots, and rewatch these videos and see who was right. I'll list all of these questions in the description below, and please feel free to answer these questions in the comments, or if you have your own Booktube channel, to make a video response. Question number 1. Pick an established classic that you think will still be relevant in the future. George Orwell's 1984. This novel says so much about the time that it was published in and about our times now. And if politics and society and the media keep going the way that they do, I'm sure it's still going to be relevant in the future with Big Brother and Doublethink and Newspeak and Thought Crimes. George Orwell will always be relevant. Question number 2. Pick a recent book which you feel has gone under the radar, but which you are confident will become a future classic. The Parcel by Anosh Irani. This is a book that I keep pressing into people's hands and saying, like, you've got to read this. It asks really tough questions about the meaning of identity and social responsibility and the plight of those who are rendered voiceless. It's brutal and beautiful and a fascinating story like none I've ever read before, and I hope that it is read for all time. Question number 3. Pick a title which won one of your favorite book prizes recently and that you think will still be lauded in 50 years' time. The Power by Naomi Alderman. This novel won the Bailey's Prize last year, which is a book award which will just be known as the Women's Prize this year. I love how this novel considers gender in a really complicated way while also telling a riveting story. I think it will be hailed and remembered just as much as Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Question number 4. Pick a book which you haven't read yet, but which you think might become a classic based on recommendations alone, like from reviews or GoodReads responses or Booktube recommendations. Sorry to Disrupt the Peace by Patty Yumi Cottrell. So I've been really intrigued to read this book since it popped up on a bunch of people's end of year best of lists at the end of last year, like the wonderful Joss from Scribbles Reads. It's a story of a woman investigating her brother's suicide, and it's one of those books that seems to have really struck people emotionally. So I think it's a book that's going to continue getting good word of mouth, and I'm so intrigued to read it. Question number 5. Pick a book that you want to save for your grandchildren to read in 50 years' time, or you could say for your friends' grandchildren to read in 50 years' time, because I'm never gonna have kids. Mrs. Engels by Gavin McRae. This novel about a headstrong, working-class Irish woman's unusual relationship with Frederick Engels, who's one of the fathers of Marxism, is so full of insights and uncomfortable questions about the nature of love and how love can become compromised in a complicated society. I still think about it all the time. I hope future generations will continue to discover the passion and humor and wonder of this astounding novel. So like I said, please comment below or make a video response yourself and tag people who you think will enjoy making this video too. I could tag so many people in this, and I've been meaning to make a video about like booktubers that I really love. So just like as way of reference of like all those people who I love to watch, I'm just gonna list in the description below a lot of booktubers that I would be really interested to see their responses to this video. People like Dee at Brown Girl Reading, and Olivia Pope, and Jen Campbell, and Matthew at MCS Books, and Chris's Bookish Cauldron, and like I said, Joss at Scribbles Reads, Run Right Reads, Mel's Bookland Adventures, Simon Savage, Annie from Am I Right, Claire Reads Books, Steve Donahue, Jennifer at Insert Literary Pun Here, Russell at Ink and Paper Blog, Sean the Bookmaniac, Ariel Bissett, Catherine, wonderful Catherine at Literary Prince, Matthew Sharapa, Camille, Helene Jeppesen, Britta Bowler. I could go on and on. There's, I'm sure I'm missing out on some people, but there's so many wonderful booktubers. I'm so curious to hear how other people might answer these questions. So I look forward to chatting with you in the comments, and I really look forward to, in 50 years' time, going back and watching all of our videos. I'll speak to you soon, book buddies.